What is up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, and on the phone we got Steve Brown from Tokyo Motor Fist. Thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me on, and greetings to everybody out there, and wherever you are, rock and roll world.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So, I was just listening to the Lions album. It sounds absolutely badass. For people who haven't heard the album yet, could these singles that you released so far, Youngblood and Around Midnight, could that almost serve as like maybe a clear representation of what the entire Lions album is going to sound like, or is that just scratching the surface in a way?
I think it's a fair representation. I mean, like I tell everybody, look, we're not reinventing the wheel here. Tokyo Motor Fist is a tried and true melodic hard rock band. If you're a fan of Trickster, Danger, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Kiss, Cheap Trick, Van Halen, of course, that's what you get with Tokyo Motor Fist. But I will tell you, Youngblood and Around Midnight, fabulous tracks on the record, but the record is very, very deep. You get into some songs like Monster and Me, which is a song that is my, kind of my tip of the hat to the Def Leppard guys and to Mutt Lange, especially the producer extraordinaire, who's one of my biggest influences. And then you have a song, the title track, Lions, which is a very, very deep song. It's my Bohemian Rhapsody, as I like to say, and we were blessed enough to have my good friend Dennis DeYoung, formerly of Styx, play an iconic keyboard solo on it. So the record is very, very deep. It's the feel-good, uplifting rock record of the year. It's the hard rock guitar record of the year. Some of my best guitar work that I've ever done. Just so proud of it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that Lines is your Bohemian Rhapsody, because when I was listening to the album, and, I always like to examine the song lengths, and then, you see that, like, standing out as the near 7-minute song, I was like, yep, it's definitely going to be having that sort of, like, slow or Bohemian Rhapsody-like anthem effect behind it. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought that.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. At this point in my career, I'm trying to check off the bucket list and song ideas that I've never had. You know what I mean? So I always go into a record before I start it, and I go, well, what kind of song haven't I written? And Lions, I haven't in my career. With Trickster, I would say As the Candle Burns would probably be the closest thing to an epic, deep meaning, but Lions is definitely the song that I've been trying to write all my life. First off, it's a song that has the most chords in it that I've ever written, and having real strings on it, real violins, huge vocals. It sort of has a Queen, Styx, Def Leppard thing going to it. So it's I'm just so proud of it. And again, like I said, the record has many colors, but the ultimate thing, it's a feel-good melodic hard rock record at its core.
Absolutely. And you kind of led me into my next question. So there was kind of maybe like a preconceived idea or that was revolving around the making of this album, right? It wasn't like you went into the studio blindfolded. You kind of had like your guns loaded, more or less, right? You knew what you were doing at the time. There was no improvising.
That's always the way I make records. I don't go in half-assed. I pretty much have all the songs written. Like I like to tell people, when I make records with the last two Trickster records, New Audio Machine, Human Era, and with the last Tokyo Motor Fist record and this one, I basically record a solo record. I don't make demos. I finish the record. I program drums. I play bass. I play keyboards. I sing. I play guitar. And then I make these tracks. I call them work versions of the songs, even though they sound like records. I work them up, and I give them to the band. I give the band 11, 12, 13 songs, and I say, here we go. I let everybody go, wow, this is awesome, which was is always the result. Because, listen, man, I know what I'm doing after 35 years of writing songs. If I don't know what I'm doing by now, I better quit. Mm-hmm. So, again, I know what I'm doing, so I give it to the guys, and I tell their one order from me is to take these songs, put your own stamp on it, take it to the next level. And that's what Ted Poley does with his vocals, Greg Smith does with his bass playing, and Chuck Berge does with his drumming. And that's what truly makes Tokyo Motor Fist, first off, a real band, and that we sort of play together, we play gigs, but we have a real band chemistry. And that's what makes this record a band. It is a band effort. As much as I'm the producer and visionary behind and songwriter behind everything, everybody is able to put their own personality into each and every song.
Mm-hmm. And you've been really good. You've been leading every question into the next one. Because does this at all, being that, the last self-titled debut album, it's the first Tokyo Motor Fist record, of course there's maybe some trial and error or whatever. Does this have any relation to the debut album, or was this basically a clean slate?
No, this was a clean slate. A lot of the first record were songs that I had left over in my vault. Again, like I said, I've had a recording studio in my house for 27 years, so I would say probably now, because over this pandemic, I've been transferring a lot of my old material, analog tape, analog tapes, digital to, just cataloging my whole history, if you will. And I probably have about 15 records worth of material, unreleased material. So I always go to the vault and I have like a chart written out of all songs and what style they are. So the first record, most of those songs were all things that I had left over. And basically what I did, I just changed them and made it fit, made the songs cohesive for, let's say, a hard rock guitar record. And that's what Tokyo Motor Fist is. It's, we're very much Van Halen, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue. You put all that together, that's kind of the sound we're going for. So that's what I do. But this record was all completely new songs, except one song. Winner Takes All was a song written by Chuck Berge, and it's probably, I'm going to say, almost 40 years old. Chuck wrote that in the early 80s, and he said, hey man, I got this song that I think could be cool, and he sent me the demo, and I immediately knew that there was something I could do with it. So I put in the drop D Van Halen Fair Warning sort of Eddie Van Halen thing on the guitar on it, and boom, we had a brand new Tokyo Motor Fist song.
That's beautiful. That is awesome. Being kind of going into the formation of Tokyo Motor Fist, being that you playing with Trickster, and was the initial maybe intention of Tokyo Motor Fist was to combine elements of Trickster and Danger Danger and all the other efforts of the other musicians, or did you guys want to do something like you've never really done before, or couldn't really do in your previous projects?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, of course, look, Frontiers Records, they give us strict guidelines, and I don't even need to follow those guidelines because it's what I do. They're a melodic hard rock label. They're a melodic rock label. They want stuff that is reminiscent of the greatest time in music. As far as I'm concerned, the 80s hard rock is what's near and dear to me. It's what created my career, so I love it more than anything. So there's no guesswork here. We knew what we were doing, and like I tell everybody, if you're a fan of Trickster, Danger Danger, Alice Cooper, Rainbow, again, Van Halen, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, that's what you get with Tokyo Motor Fist. We're not hiding any of our influences here at all.
Mm-hmm. For your guitar work, do you have maybe like a theoretical background that that you apply into writing solos and riffs and stuff, or are you more self-taught?
I'm a little bit of both. I mean, I'm definitely more self-taught, but I do have theory. I know scales. I know, look, man, I've been producing records for 30 years, and I'm an engineer, mastering engineer, mixing, anything you can imagine. So every part of it, I just love music so much. It is my passion in life. When it comes down to it, I still practice my guitar every day. I practice my vocals every day. I write songs every day. I'm practicing different recording techniques. Just what I love to do. As much as I love surfing and paddleboarding out on my lake or down at my beach house, my main passion is my job, and that's a beautiful thing. So it never gets old. Every day I try to learn something new, and it keeps things exciting. And it's just, I embrace all of the new technology, so that helps my songwriting. For guitar playing, look, man, I've always been a fan. My biggest influence, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, Steve Vai, Warren DeMartini. All these guys wrote iconic melodic, memorable hard rock guitar solos. And that's all I try to do. As much as I'm a fan of all these shredders, and you watch on YouTube, these guys are a dime a dozen. Who can play faster than the next guy? Show me one of these guys who can play a great melodic hard rock solo like Neil Schon, like Phil Collin, like Richie Sambora, or even better, like Eddie Van Halen. There's not many of them, because most of these guys nowadays are it's a big wank fest in how fast you can play. Sweep picking, it's kind of nauseating.
Yeah, well, I've always said that guitar soloing is almost like the second vocalist in a way, in conveying like a melody and an emotion and imagery as well. And I agree. Like I think 20-second long guitar solo with great melody is much stronger than a 7.5 minute long guitar solo that's just playing 40 notes per minute.
I totally agree with you, and you're the first person that's ever said that, so I got to give you props as a great interviewer and a great. Are you a guitar player?
I work in musical gear for a day job. I don't know if you heard of Alto Music, but that's my family business. So I've been around gear my whole life. So
in like Westchester?
Upstate Middletown, New York.
Oh, dude, I bought my computer off of Bobby Montemuro.
Really? Yeah, he's one of my closest friends. That guy pretty much knew me since I was a baby. Shout out to Slim, as we call him.
Oh, dude. Well, you hit the Mac Mini that he sold me is what I used on the last 2 Trickster records and the last 2 Tokyo Motor Fist records. Alto Music, man. I love you guys. And you know what's funny? I've never been to one of your fucking stores.
You got to come by sometime up in Middletown.
I certainly do. Well, I'm going to tell you this right now. Probably next year, I need to get a new rig, so I'm going to come up. Dude, we're going to talk, and let's get the interview over with. I want to talk to you. This is fucking great, but yeah, how funny is that?
That's incredible. This wasn't staged, by the way, for anybody listening. That's actually, wow, that's an awesome coincidence.
So tell Bobby I said hi, and the computer's been amazing. So getting into that, so you know about gear. I'm a huge gear guy. I've been endorsed by Eddie Van Halen. He's my dear friend, my brother, for almost 30 years now, since he was with PV, and I followed him all of his companies. I used all the Wolfgang guitars, the 5150 amps. I'm also a huge supporter of Headrush pedal boards. They're the pedal boards that I use, and so I'm all about the gear. But guitar playing, what the question you just said, so I just did an interview with Guitar World magazine, and I told them the same thing. If you listen to the guitar solo in the lead-off track on the record, Youngblood, it's 13 seconds. In that 13 seconds, I say everything I needed to say. It has everything that I ever wanted in a guitar solo, and that's, you nailed it on the head. You can say more in 20 seconds playing the right notes and the right phrases way more than you can with a 32 bar guitar solo with just pointless nonsense, basically showing that you're a speedologist or whatever, or you're a world-class athlete on the guitar, man. I'm very much into the thought process of just what you said, that a guitar player and guitar solos are like another voice in the song. And basically the way I look at it, guitar solos are like another song within a song.
Of course. And you know what I find unique is this is actually a debate I've heard in a lot of guitar players' interviews watching them. Like, is it the guitar that matters, or is it the guitarist? I had a discussion with my father one time. He said a great guitarist can make the shittiest guitar sound phenomenal. But I'd imagine, would you say it's the guitarist that makes the sound great, or is it also the guitar? Does that play a role?
I gotta give props in both ways. Most importantly, it's all in the hands of the guitar player. We all know that. No matter who it is. If Eddie Van Halen comes over here to my house and he plays guitar, plays through some amp that's not his that I have, it's going to sound like Eddie Van Halen no matter what. Same thing with every guitar player. I have a $5,000 Wolfgang, the flame top Les Paul. I could play that, or I could play a $100 Chinese knockoff of one of their guitars. Still gonna sound great. Still sounds like me. You know what I mean? But with that being said, the technology of late, whether it's the guitar plugins, which I'm also a fan of, I used a lot on the record, not using any amps, but using plugins. I love that. The technology, the digital modeling and profiling, it's just incredible where we've come, in the last 50 years, let's say, of music recording and guitar stuff. We've all been searching all of our lives to get that Eddie Van Halen, Eruption, Van Halen 1 guitar sound. Now you can pretty much get that sound in any floorboard that you buy, Headrush or any of the other brands, or in the Kemper or the Axe Effects. It's incredible.
Yeah, and what I find unique about guitar playing is, obviously people say that because of modern technology, it's easy for people to cheat with like auto-tune or whatever, but like in the end, if you're playing a live guitar and you're soloing, I don't care how modern your rig is or whatever, if you mess up a note, people are still going to hear it regardless. You can't cheat in guitar skill, I feel.
No, you cannot, and that is exactly true, and that is huge props to you again as being, look, you're in the business, you know that. Look, we all know about, and again, I embrace technology, whether it's fixing drum timing, whether it's fixing tuning of vocals, we can pretty much make anything sound perfect. The one thing you cannot do, you cannot fix guitar playing or fake. You can't get a computer program that plays lead guitar that's convincing. So that is the one thing. Though you can do things, and I've had to do it, man. I've had to take where I do a great guitar solo, and then a week later I'm listening and I go, fuck, man, that one note's out of tune. Instead of fucking playing again, I'll just put Melodyne on it, pull that note up a little bit or pull that note down. Hey, we all don't be cavemen, I tell everybody. Use technology, but at the end of the day, you still gotta play. As a guitar player, you still have to play. Drums you can program, keyboards you can program, bass you can program and get away with it. But lead guitar playing, especially, and great rhythm guitar playing, there's no software out there that can recreate that, and I don't think that'll ever happen.
Yeah, of course you'll have a couple people, who hide behind the smoke screen of distortion, as I call it, to, make everything kind of muffled together. But I don't care how many Boss Metal Zone pedals you have. If you fuck up, people are going to hear it.
Totally, man. That's what it's all about. And, listen, this record, Tokyo Motor Fist Lions, to me, 30 years as a national act artist, making records from, we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the debut Trickster record, and here we are right now, and I'm proud to say that I feel like this record is my greatest guitar playing record to date. I think it's a textbook, and it's probably, I'm going to go on record maybe as saying it's probably one of the top hard rock guitar records of the year, and I hope all the fans and all you listeners out there agree.
Of course. I have two more questions for you, but when we hear your guitar soloing, is it almost reminiscent of like an emotion or a feeling that you were feeling at that particular time in a way?
I don't know about that. I think it's more the feeling of the song that I'm trying to put in there. A perfect example of that is on this record, the second song on the record, Monster in Me, which is one of my favorite solos on the record. The song Monster in Me is about the Jekyll and Hyde that people have, whether you're dealing with substance abuse, whether you're dealing with mental issues, how people can go. So it's kind of a dark song as much as it's fun and uplifting. When you listen to it, the lyrical end of the song is very, very kind of, again, Jekyll and Hyde, dark, the monster in me. It says it. So the guitar solo for me was very important to convey that. And I think if you listen to the song, you will hear a tremendous amount of emotion in that, where there's sorrow, there's confusion, there is desperation, and you can hear the guitar. To me, I hear the guitar crying, and there's parts of it that are very sad, and then there are parts of it that are very angry and very aggressive. So I think that's definitely a standout track for all the guitar players out there. Listen to that solo. I think it'll speak volumes to everybody.
Yeah. What I find unique about this record, actually, in particular, is, a lot of times, and I don't know if this was maybe one of your goals, but I've heard a lot of artists say, we try to capture a moment or a snapshot. For me, I could listen to this record, and it's an appropriate time anywhere. You know what I mean? Even in the post-apocalyptic world that we're living in right now, I still feel like that it's always an appropriate time to listen to Lions by Tokyo Motor Fist.
I agree with you. Well, look, man, I've always tried, one rule that I've always tried to adhere to is I want to make music that is timeless. And look, we all know I'm part of the, whole 80s hard rock invasion, the big rock, the hair metal, if you will, even though we all hate that term. But look, you make music, you try to write the best songs, and here's the way I say it. If you took One in a Million by Trickster and had NSYNC do it, or the Backstreet Boys, or Bon Jovi covered it, or let's say if Jewel did a version of it acoustically, it's still a great song. You could take away all the distortion, take away everything. Anything that I write as a songwriter, I think if you take away all the bells and whistles, it all reverts back to it. It's still a great song. So that's the most important thing for me. And that's kind of how I write. I play things, mostly I write on acoustic guitar, and then I go, does this sound good? Is this a good acoustic song? And if I know it's good that way, I know it's going to translate and be in any sort of format that we put it in. That's the goal.
Acoustic guitar, I've always said that's the ultimate test, because like with an acoustic guitar you are naked. So if it sounds good on an acoustic guitar, I've always said if it sounds good acoustically, it'll sound good anywhere.
That's the be all end all right there. That's what it's about, and that's a great lesson for all the young kids out there when you're writing songs. Don't, just like what you said before, don't hide behind the distortion. Don't hide behind anything. That's the motto of it all, but don't hide behind especially distortion, especially when you're writing rock songs. The smartest way anybody can go about it is by writing acoustically, because if it does sound good, record yourself on your phone or whatever recording gear you have. If it sounds good on an acoustic guitar and a vocal, it's going to sound good anyway.
Of course. And you ready for the most difficult question of the whole interview? I saved the hardest one for last.
Of course, I'm always ready.
All right. So you have a song like Around Midnight that's under 3 minutes long. Then you have a song like Lions that's just under 7 minutes, and then you have a song like Look at Me that's or Look Into Me that's 4.5 minutes. How do you know when a song is done?
I know by the way I feel in my heart and the way I feel in my bones, and if it makes me jump. Around Midnight, you know what's funny about Around Midnight? There are actual YouTube comments on the video where people were like, song is too short, dislike. Like, what the fuck is that?
And you're going to hear people complain about the title track saying it's too long at the same time, probably.
Of course. And look, it is what it is. Some of the greatest rock songs ever written were, back in the day, under 3 minutes. If you can't make your point in 3 minutes or less, it's not a good song anyway. Look, I don't know where the 3-minute and 30-second thing came into play. I think that was all about radio back in the 50s and the 60s, where they had to get X amount of songs in plus the commercials. So I think that's it. But for me, I don't give a fuck whether, just like what you said, if it's fucking 3 minutes or 6 minutes. Lions, to me, that was the song that I wanted to write all my life. It's my Bohemian Rhapsody. It's my Best of Times. It's my Gods of War, like Def Leppard. It's an epic song. Fuck it. I wanted to keep going, and it says something, and I don't think anybody's going to get bored listening to it.
Yep, absolutely. And in the end, if the song is strong, it doesn't matter how quick or how long it is. I mean, look, Pink Floyd does great, or a modern day band like Opeth does a great job at writing long songs. They know how to keep it engaging. But then there's bands that are short and sweet and to the point. I think in the end, song length, like, that's not even something people should analyze. If it's a strong song, you'll be engaged every passing measure.
That's the goal of it. And believe me, listen, man, I'm smart enough, again, as a producer, that I'm not married to anything so much that I'm the detriment of the song would be. If Lions, to me, the title track, felt too long, I certainly would have edited it. I can do it in a drop. Dude, it's very easy to do. And I play around with different arrangements all the time. In Pro Tools, I'm a big proponent of, and I tell this to all students that I teach and give advice to. Don't be married. I learned this from Mutt Lang and the Def Leppard guys. Don't be in love with every idea that you have that you will not be willing to change something. Because sometimes it's that first idea, and that if you change something, you might stumble upon something that's 100 times better. And that's happened to me millions of times writing songs over the last 40 years. So always be open to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've always said that attachment is one of the worst things that an artist could have.
Yeah, well, we're all guilty of it, man. You know, I got to tell you, back when we were doing the first Trickster record, our record label people, our record company president, and our managers, and myself, and some of the guys in the band, we suffered this thing called demoitis, where we were all in love with the demos, and our producer, Bill Ray, who produced the record, he was trying to make our songs better, and there were certain things that I could not let go of, and one of them is Give It To Me Good, my biggest hit ever, and I thank God that I stood my ground, because I said, this song doesn't need any changes, I'm not changing it, and I was right about that. One in a Million, the original version of One in a Million, didn't have a lot of the parts that it has in the final version that became a hit for Trickster in 1991, and I'm thankful that I was like, you know what, let's change this needs more. We made changes to it, added that Photograph Def Leppard type intro, and it completely transformed the song into an epic classic rock song.
Definitely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else? Obviously, thanks to a certain virus that shall not be named on my outlet. But I'd imagine that after all, this whole apocalyptic universe is over, I'd imagine we'll be seeing Tokyo Motor Fest on the road quite a bit, right? Any chance they'll bring this to New York?
Yeah, well, that is the goal. I mean, we had some shows booked. We were slated to go to Japan for the first time. How cool is that? Tokyo Motor Fest, live in Tokyo.
That makes too much sense to me.
Oh man, so we're that's going to be in 2021, but we're just waiting right now. I mean, we've got some makeup dates that we had booked for earlier in the year. Luckily we just got done what we did in February, the Monsters of Rock cruise. We had 2 great shows on there. So yes, we are booking shows, but we have to wait until we know what the protocol is. Shows are starting to get announced, I see, but then also every time I see a show announced, 2 weeks later I see it's postponed again.
Yeah, you gotta don't be. All I know is, regardless if it's next year, whenever, I just know that when all this is over, we're gonna have the best era of music ever, in my opinion. I think we will have the best era of music of all time.
All I know from my fans out there, from the Trickster fans, Tokyo Motor Fest, and all the bands I've been into, I've been cataloging all my material. I've been digitizing my analog. I digitized my first recording, the first Trickster demo tape from 1986, the 8-track. I have a Tascam 38 analog 8-track machine. I digitized stuff, and all I can say to my fans is, you're going to have, in the next 10 years, there's going to be a shitload of releases from Steve Brown, from all the different things that I've been cataloging.
Yeah, every rock and roll in every era always has something working against it. This time it's the pandemic. I would say that this virus is basically just the new Tipper Gore, the enemy of rock and roll, as I call it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were looking forward to 2020 being the biggest year in touring history ever. It was going to go on record as that, but it's incredible how this has wiped everybody out. But I always like to look at life in the positive, and that at the end of the day, look, this is what happened. We all have to embrace it. We all have to adhere to the rules. So this is what I tell everybody. Follow the rules. Wear a mask where you have to. Don't be an idiot, because the longer we keep infecting other people getting infected, the longer we're not going to have rock shows. And, sadly, the live rock and roll business is the last thing that's going to come back. So until a cure is there, made, we just have to, we have to adhere to the rules and just keep doing things. So for the fans out there, buy the online tickets to see your band. If they're doing a live stream, buy the tickets. Do whatever to keep supporting us, because we all know how much help the musicians, the crew guys, the music stores, everybody needs to survive. So let's all band together and do that.
Yeah, and you said that 2020 was supposed to be like the biggest year of touring. As somebody who works in the metal media, I'll take the blame for this as well as every other outlet. We were all saying that it was going to be the biggest year, and we totally jinxed it. So, I'll partially take the blame as well.
Well, I don't think anybody has to take the blame, man. It's just one of these unforeseen circumstances. No one in the world saw this coming, so it's just one of those things. We just got to live with it and deal with it. And in a couple of years, I believe we're all going to look back on this, and our country, hopefully in the next couple of years, we get out of this craziness that we're in, and the world in general in the next couple of years, I believe within 3 or 4 years, it's all going to be a better place. One thing for sure, it's going to be a healthier place, and we're all going to know how to wash our hands 100 times better.
That right now, this is our anchor, but in a few years, it'll become our armor.
There you go, man. Wow, you're a fucking professional. I love it.
Thank you, man. But Steve, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, we are here with Steve Brown of Trickster and Tokyo Motor Fist. Be sure to pick up Lions, coming out via Frontiers July 10th. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.